Soul Calibur 3 proved to be another successful game, and soon afterwards, the developers began work on Soul Calibur 4. The game was released on July 19, 2008, and was available for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Oh man, this game. I do have quite some fond memories playing it back in the day, but was it just as good as I remember it to be? Let's find out in my retrospective review for Soul Calibur 4. The story in this game picks up right after the events of Soul Calibur 3, and oh boy, so much has happened in the game's time frame that if I were to explain it all, we'd once again be here all day. However, I will say that considering how this game was supposed to be the last one, I felt that most of the characters' endings are pretty satisfying for the most part. Now, following Soul Calibur tradition, the graphics in this game look pretty good. However, the opening FMV was very disappointing. Well, compared to the previous games anyway. The characters' fighting animations look stiff and awkward. Compared to the intros of the first 3 Soul Calibur games, this one is hands down my least favorite. And as beautifully polished as the graphics in this game are, I really don't like how they went further into the anime style in terms of art direction. Or more specifically, the facial rendering. What I mean is that most of the characters' faces look like that of a generic anime character, with bigger eyes, shinier skin, and overly glossy hair. One of the things that drew me into Soul Calibur in the first place was a distinctive style of fantasy with a hint of realism, and Soul Calibur 3 nearly perfected that style, which makes the direction in this game all the more disappointing to me. Remember the promotional art used for Soul Calibur 3? That's what the art style should have looked like in my opinion, because with the next-gen graphics engine on the PS3 and 360, it was totally possible. I mean seriously, look at Taki. She doesn't even look remotely Japanese anymore. And I could say the same for Zhanghua, Sung Mina, and Gun Sung. You wouldn't be able to tell that Zhanghua was Chinese if it wasn't for her outfit. And I could say the same for Sung Mina and especially Gun Sung. They don't even look remotely Korean anymore. And don't get me started on the Alexandra sisters, who lost their Greek angelic faces. Cassandra looks like she had really bad plastic surgery. Sophidia fared a little better, but she still looks pretty off-putting. I could go on, but I'm sure you get the idea. For a debut on the next-gen graphics, it left a lot to be desired. That said, all the characters from Soul Calibur 3 have returned, but we also got one new character, and her name was Hild. Hild is a warrior princess who uses the short sword and lance style. And she... Wait a minute. Wait. Is she wearing armor from head to toe? Okay. All jokes aside, Hild was an awesome new character. I loved her design and her spirited personality, and she fit in perfectly with the main cast of characters. Guest characters were also brought back, and this time around, we got characters from Star Wars. The PS3 port came with Darth Vader, and the 360 port came with Yoda. And last but not least, the Apprentice aka Starkiller from Star Wars The Force Unleashed also made an appearance, and he was available on both consoles. Honestly, I was never a big Star Wars fan, so I was pretty indifferent to these characters, and they felt really out of place here. You see, when it comes to guest characters, I prefer it when the guest character looks like they could fit into the game's universe. I would have much preferred seeing someone like Ryo Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden, Prince from Prince of Persia, Yoshitsune from Genji, or Naruto from Heavenly Sword, as they all had games out prior to 2008, and they could have easily fit into the Soul Calibur universe. So sorry to the Star Wars fans, I just felt that the Star Wars characters were way out of their element here, and frankly, waste of character slots. Now the stages in this game, they were okay I guess, but certainly not as memorable as the stages from Soul Calibur 3. I mean, the only stages I somewhat liked was the Phantom Pavilion, Imperial Garden, Hall of the Warrior God, the Shrine, and the Wolfkrone Monument. But other than that, I felt that the stages in this game were pretty boring for the most part. Now for the most part, the core gameplay hasn't changed, so there's really no point for me to talk about it. If you played any of the older Soul Calibur games, this one is pretty much the same. However, there were 3 extra things added to the gameplay. The first was the soul gauge system. Up right here next to your health bar is your soul gauge, and as you or your opponent block attacks, it takes damage and changes color depending on its level capacity. If you continue blocking attacks, and the soul gauge starts flashing red, the attacking character will break through the guard, causing a soul crush, which leaves the defending character in a short stun, which gives the attacking character a free hit. Expanding upon that, the second feature was the critical finish move, which could be activated during a soul crush. Critical finishes were pretty much special finisher attacks, where the characters perform a signature special move that automatically ends the match. Each character has their own unique critical finish. Some were okay I guess, while others were...
Here we go! Come on! Like this kind of stuff? Ow!
For the most part, I didn't care about this feature because it rarely ever happened during matches. The last new feature was equipment destruction. As characters fight during matches, they may accumulate cosmetic damages to their clothing, from rips, tears, and fraying to garments, and heck, even armor pieces can be broken off and actually stay on the battlefield. And I gotta say, I actually really like this feature. It made the fights feel more realistic. Now the game modes in this game were definitely lacking. Story mode returns, but compared to the Tales of Soul mode in Soul Calibur 3, it left a lot to be desired. You choose a character and fight on a total of 5 stages. On the 4th stage, you fight against a character who shares a special tie with the character you've chosen. And on the 5th stage, you either fight against Siegfried, Nightmare, or the new final boss character, Algol. I don't want to spoil too much about him, but all you need to know is that he's the one who created Soul Calibur, to defeat the evil Soul Edge. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't like Algol at all when I first played this game back in 2008. I mean, come on, the man shoots fucking balls for attacks. Balls? What? I just found him to be a ridiculous concept, but when I came back to replay this game, I actually found myself liking him. I mean, stupid balls aside, compared to the previous final bosses who were just mimic characters, he actually had his own fighting style, and he had a pretty cool design as well. So all in all, Algol was a pretty cool final boss. Arcade mode returns, and it plays pretty much how you expect. You fight on a total of 8 stages. On the 7th stage, you fight against the apprentice, which by the way, fuck this guy. And on the 8th stage, you fight against Algol. As you play, you're able to rack up points for high scores. And the last playable mode was Tower of Lost Souls. In this mode, it offered Ascend mode and Descend mode. In Ascend mode, you selected a room and chose 1 to 3 characters depending on the mission's objective, which you then fought characters under certain circumstances. There are a total of 60 rooms, with Algol being the final boss, and oh my god, let me just tell you, you're in for an excruciating fight. Seriously, he can't be ringed out, he heals when he attacks you, and he has a skill called Unblockable Attack, which makes blocking against him useless. Yeah, as you can probably tell, it's a pretty frustrating fight, but once you do manage to beat him, you will feel a big rush of accomplishment. In Descend mode, you chose 2 characters and fought through a ladder of characters, until your characters are defeated. It was pretty much the survival mode of this game, but honestly, I much prefer the survival mode of the other games. And well, that's pretty much it, in terms of playable game modes. And last but not least, character creation made a return in this game. However, unlike Soul Calibur 3, that had special custom movesets that fell under certain job classes, you're only allowed to pick a main character's style, excluding Algol and the Star Wars guest characters. The character creator had been expanded upon even more in terms of physical alterations, as you were now able to change your character's physique and musculature, and you were also able to change the tone and pitch of your character's voice. This was a very neat feature that made your character stand out even more than the last game. Well, from a physical standpoint anyway. The main thing I didn't like about the character creation in this game was the lack of being able to layer things like you could in the last game. For example, in Soul Calibur 3, it offers 16 equipment slots to decorate your character with. But in this game, you only have 10. 10! I wouldn't have minded this as much if they at least kept the chest armor and belts separate item slots. But no, belts are automatically attached to certain shirts or pants, and chest armor is automatically attached to certain shirts. Ugh, seriously? It definitely feels limiting compared to the options we had in Soul Calibur 3. That being said, while the character creation was lacking in some areas, it was still decent for the most part, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't have at least some fun creating characters in this game. It just really could have been a lot better. Museum mode also makes a return, and you're still able to unlock things like concept art and videos. However, weapon exhibition mode doesn't make a return, and I was so disappointed about that. Why? Why take out something that made the Soul Calibur series unique from the other fighting games? Weapon exhibition mode was one of the best features of the Soul Calibur series. Ugh, really? Sorry guys, I just really like this mode, and I was pretty disappointed they got rid of it. The music in this game was okay I guess, but compared to Soul Calibur 3, it was kinda boring in my opinion. The only songs that I mildly liked were the themes for the Wolfkrone Monument, Hall of the Warrior God, the Phantom Pavilion, and Thanatos, the song that plays when you fight Algol in Tower of Lost Souls. I'm not saying that the music in this game is total trash, but compared to the music in the previous games, it's definitely the weakest. Now in terms of collectibles, other than being able to unlock characters like the Apprentice and Algol, you were also able to unlock 4 other guest characters, who were created by 4 popular manga artists. Honestly, the only character I found kind of interesting was Ashlot, and that's only because of her steampunk design. But the others, not so much. I'm just not into heavily anime style character design, and these characters fall hard into that category. Especially Anglefear. I mean, she has spiked tits. What even? Oh, and don't get me started on this one with that voice of hers. Yeah, that isn't fucking annoying. It doesn't even help that these characters don't even have their own fighting styles, which makes them even more boring. So with the exception of Ashlot, I personally found these characters to be utterly pointless, and a waste of character slots. Now if I had to bring up any nitpicks I had with this game, one big thing that really put me off was the slowed down gameplay. I mean, I was able to adjust to it, but the drastic change in movement speed really limited the dynamic effect that was present in Soul Calibur 2 and 3. Seriously, it really put a damper on my overall experience with this game. It was also disappointing that there wasn't any campaign mode for custom characters like in Soul Calibur 3 with its Chronicles of the Sword mode. Another issue was the equipment destruction with how it was displayed on custom characters. Unlike the main characters, who only got rips or tears in their clothing, custom characters' clothing literally disintegrates off of them, leaving your characters exposed in their underwear. I mean, look at this. They should have just called this game Stripper Calibur. I wouldn't have minded this feature as much if they at least gave us the option to turn it off, but no, they didn't. Overall, while the game did have some things that irritated me, it still turned out to be a pretty decent game. As a fighting game, it's good, but for me, it does fall a little short compared to Soul Calibur 3. That said, Soul Calibur 4 gets 8 out of 10. While I did have fun with this game, the lack of content was kind of disappointing, considering how much content we got in Soul Calibur 3, but at the end of the day, the game was still enjoyable, and it's definitely worth the play. Considering that Soul Calibur 4 was supposed to be the last game in the series, it was a pretty good send-off. However, 2 years later, Katsuhiro Harada, the producer of the Tekken series, made a Twitter post saying that if there was enough interest, a 5th game would be made. He started a voting poll, and after a year, Namco came out with news that Soul Calibur 5 was confirmed, and the game was released in 2012 for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Oh man, this game. This fucking game. I have a lot to say about it. You have no idea. But that'll have to wait for the next video. Stay tuned for my retrospective review of Soul Calibur 5, coming soon. I'm Decadent Gamer, and have a great day. Thanks for watching.